Welcome to Slash Forward. I've always said that the best protection against unforeseen calamities is to constantly run different scenarios in your mind. To that end, we're going to take a detailed look at a different kind of alien encounter with the 1982 film Xtro. A young man enjoying some good old-fashioned stick play with his father suffers a devastating loss when that very same father, previously mentioned, is abducted into a dark void. With the positive evidence of the terrible event, young Tony finds himself alone on an island of emotional solitude for the next 3 years, until his father Sam returns. But does he? In this interesting take on a classic story, we're left to wonder what the hell is going on in terms of the compulsions and intent of the strange beings, as the only things we ever really learn from them are through the impulses of Sam, who has not returned so much as he has been reborn from the bowels of the earth. I'm guessing this one screwed some of you up when you were kids. Be sure to leave a comment with any ideas of what the aliens might have been up to, and feel free to hit the like button if you enjoy the video. Let's get to it. We open on a quaint little summer cottage where little Tone, a right proper mad lad, hops a fence to steal the hubcaps off a car. But Mummy gets away, so he goes back to playing stick whacker with Papa Sam. When he tosses that sumbitch into the air, it effing explodes and drapes the sky in total darkness. They're then victim to a persistent assault of light and leaves and general chaos. And when it's all said and done, Daddy is gone. We flash forward 3 years to Tony waking up, haunted by thoughts of why Sam doesn't want them anymore. Rachel does her best to raise her young boy, but is troubled by his recurring nightmares and the fact that he can't get over his loss, despite her finding a perfectly acceptable replacement in Joe, the fine specimen who now shares her bed. But then in the cold, dark night, after these long 3 years, a familiar lighted shape crests the country hill. It cuts a path into the forest, leaving a trail of smoldering wreckage behind, and compelling the natural earth to reconstitute a portion of its base elements into a sort of slimy, upside-down man. It makes a quick appearance to rile up the locals. Luckily, there is no damage to the vehicle, but Thaddeus happens to be a total freak about cryptids, so he's geeking out right now. His curiosity drives him deep into the woods, and he doesn't even consider turning back until he happens upon a fleshy little wad of meat, which tongue lashes him just below the eyeballs, the prime kill spot. When he doesn't return, Sardinia backs down the road a bit to see if she can find him, but instead gets grabbed. Later on, outside a nearby summer cottage, a familiar form approaches in the dark. Inside, the current occupant is warned of danger by her trusty pooch, who becomes frustrated that she is so dense. But then a strange noise outside does prompt her to lock up, set the mood just right for blood, and to load up the shoddy. But her intruder is already inside, and after willfully feeding it her hand and passing out, it uses a slimy protuberance to get her mouth pregnant. Back at the London flat, Tony has another bad dream, prompting him to interrupt Mommy's grown-up wrestle sesh so she can put him back to bed. He seems to be feeling better despite suffering from a flop sweat, and he announces Daddy's return before revealing that he's been completely saturated in life juice from an unknown source. They call the doctor, but he doesn't find any signs of external injury. So with really nothing else to worry about, he wraps it up and heads on out. Along the way, Joe oversteps with advice about what's best for Tony, while the doc suggests this may be psychosomatic and therefore treatable through therapy. Then Annalise, the fiery French Scientologist, comes out to make him choke on his words. So he confirms that with his job done, it's in their hands, and he takes his leave. Back at the cottage, Dingo's tucking into a massive sloppy pile of wet meat as his owner wakes up feeling a bit off. She tries to settle her GI with some refreshing water, but Baby is not in the mood. She collapses under the weight of her distended belly and serves up a birthing scene for the ages. Luckily for her sleep schedule, she gives birth to a full-grown man. Luckily for Tony, that man happens to be his father. Yeah, wash up like a man, boy. Once he's all cleaned up, he follows a vague memory of a past life to get himself dressed and secure transportation. Later that morning, Rachel is awoken by a caller, but Sam is not yet able to speak coherently, and he also accidentally melts the phone. After he rolls up with Sardinia still in the passenger seat for carpool purposes, he gets out and begins creeping. Upstairs, things are as normal. Tony has no respect for anyone. Annalise is lazing about, and we learn that they're addressing the prior night's events by pretending they never happened. On the way to school, they're accosted by an old lady in the hallway, and Tony shoots that bitch. Then, as they make their way through the traffic and bustle of the city, Sam is close by, watching and waiting. Back at the lot, a tradesman pulls up hard and bumps Sam's car. When he goes to apologize, he accidentally unpacks Sam's lunchbox. While at the flat, Annalise is spending her time on the clock engaged in an afternoon delight. It's interrupted by a call call that's maybe important, but I can't focus on anything other than how Michael is putting whatever his mouth touched all over that milk bottle. At the studio, Joe is engaged in his side hustle of foot photography when Rachel dips out to go pick up Tony from school. When she gets there, the yard marm informs her that her services are unnecessary because Tony's already been picked up by his father, who she's never met. She rushes off searching frantically until overcome by a strange feeling that leads her to Sam.
Hi, Mom.
And Tony. Sam can speak now, so they catch up. After the formalities, he confirms that he's back for good now. But from where? Who knows? She brings him home to sort things out, and he expresses how good it feels to be back where he belongs on a permanent basis, which is presumptuous. After dressing smartly in some of his old wardrobe, a sip of scotch causes his memory of that fateful day to come flooding back. Joe comes in to start sizing things up and make preparations for staking his claim, but the initial signs are not promising. In a more private moment, Joe complains about getting his feelings hurt, and Rachel admits that she's feeling like Sam's explanation of what happened might warrant picking up where they left off. Later that night, Sam slips into Tony's room and snatches Harry's egg so he can start slurping up that sweet, sweet snake embryo. Tony walks in at an inopportune moment, and he knows immediately what Daddy's up to, mostly because Harry is obviously pissed off. Tony is so startled that he jets out of the whole building and into the cool evening air, bare-chested, and doesn't stop until he's good and lost, but with Sam still hot on his heels. Meanwhile, Rachel comes home and finds Tony's room empty. Insistent that Sam must have stolen him, Joe hopes he can score some brownie points by jogging off with her in search of Tony. When Sam catches up with his son, he explains that he's changed a bit in his time away. For instance, he needs to eat snake eggs now. He offers to take Tony back with him before comforting his son in a way that I'm not sure I can describe without getting in trouble. When Rachel and Joe return, the boys are back, and Sam plays it off like they just went to get some sweets, but we saw what happened. That night at dinner, the adults make small talk, which turns into a group chat about Sam and Rachel's relationship. The tone escalates until Sam puts Joe in his place, causing Joe to screech at him like a howler monkey. Meanwhile, Tony is spinning tops with his mind, and that freaks him out. He calls for Daddy, and Sam comes to reassure him that this represents the new norm, and from this point on, moving toys is but a fraction of his new, ill-defined suite of powers, imbued upon him during the basement incident. Meanwhile, Harry packs up and leaves, looking to start over in a new place more amenable to nurturing snake babies. Unfortunately, first stop on his journey is Mrs. Goodman's flat, and in this house, they are indiscriminate in dealing with serpentine vermin. She returns his tenderized remains to Rachel, causing Tony to go into a fit of rage, but not yet, Tony. Not yet. Later on, while doing his sketches, Rachel delivers some more clothes to Sam and also lays down some mixed messages. After she leaves, he tries to calm the fire in his brain by huffing some gas. Tony dreams of Harry, and in his focused rage, he manifests some clown magic. But this is that silly type of clown that thirsts for blood. Then Mrs. Goodman answers a knock at the door and is surprised when an unknown visitor begins to make his way in. She's even more surprised to see it's a man-sized toy equipped with a functional harpoon gun. Failing that, it pursues her with its assault rifle, but she does a cracking job of hiding out. Unfortunately, her sweet tooth cannot be tamed, and she gives an indication as to where the bayonet should be inserted. The next morning, Joe sulks off to work in an introspective mood. We know it's bad because when he gets to the studio, he attempts to drown his sorrows in some refreshing juice. Back at home, it appears he left Rachel a Dear John letter. Now free to pursue her interests, she goes out to reminisce with Sam, whose memory is slowly coming back into focus. But then, when Annalise is sorting the wash, she finds some strange items in Sam's jacket, but he claims to have no memory of them. Very convenient. Regardless, she pops in to say hi to Joe and make sure he's aware that she's going to the cottage with Sam. So bye! Back at the flat, Annalise is doing a real shit job of cleaning. If that is her job, still not fully sure of her role, and the doorbell rings announcing Michael's arrival. As a certified sex fiend, she sneaks him into her room before letting Tony know she needs to go take a nap.
You're always lying down.
Get roasted by a child. He gives her about 5 minutes before insisting on a game of hide and seek, which she agrees to in the hope it'll shut him up. Determined to get back to her lover, she attempts to make quick work of this. Tony throws his voice, making her think he's on the elevator. She chases it up and down, but ultimately discovers it to be unoccupied, except for the clown. I guess Tony was mad at her or something? And as Michael waits patiently, Tony sucks out her life force, or blows something into her. It's not totally clear. While all this is going down, Rachel and Sam arrive at the old cottage cottage to see what additional memories they can reconstruct for Sam. But then when they get to the front door,
Sam, someone's been here.
Someone short who burns things, I would say. They go in and look around, and Rachel finds that someone left the gas on, exactly how Sam likes it. But before we can go deeper, Sam elects to run off to find his favorite spot in the woods. Michael finally gets fed up with waiting and goes to look for Annalise, but he doesn't find her on the mantle, and then a toy tank rolls in and tries to straight up blast his face through the back of his head. He seeks refuge in the bathroom, where he finds Annalise, busy nurturing her new egg sac. Plus, there is a Black Panther. Back in the woods, Rachel finds a presence and runs to tell Sam. But when she finds him, he's all rolled up and quivering like a little baby bird. She brings him back inside so he can get all warmed up and cozy. Then, as she goes to call home, he pulls out a hair plug and tosses it into the fire, which is definitely not going to raise the ambiance. She's unable to reach Tony because he's busy enjoying a milkshake, while his clown friend repurposes the appliances for their activities. You know, guy stuff. Rachel then calls the super to ask if he can go check in. Meanwhile, whatever they've got going on in the bathroom comes to fruition. The clown carefully collects the eggs and prepares them for incubation, so they're too busy to answer when Mr. Knight rings. This either puts Tony in a bad mood, or he's now using his powers to kill anyone who garners his attention, because when Mr. Knight gets downstairs, he steps off the elevator into total darkness and has his throat slit by a bouncing light. Not sure why he didn't see that coming. With no callbacks, Rachel enlists Joe's help in trying to get some answers. As he casually cleans the birdcage, he notices a striking resemblance between the jacket photo and a story about a dead woman recently found in the area. He tries to call back right away, but Sam knows what's up and heats up the phone box with his hot little hands. Conveniently, as soon as Joe steps out, Tony is there already, resting on the hood of his car like a calendar girl. With that task completed, he takes Tony to the cottage. Hopefully they drive slow, because Mommy is busy reconciling. Unfortunately, Sam has turned into a monster, and he apologizes for his gruesome appearance profusely before he skeets dramatically. Rachel now ponders her life choices as Sam lurks around in the shadows. Then the boys arrive, and Joe tells Tony to cool out in the car while he goes in to see what's what. Rachel meets him in the entryway to make a quick getaway, but Tony's already found his way into the forest, where he's lovingly caressed by his rapidly deteriorating father. Joe chases them down for a man-to-man confrontation, but Sam is no man, and he shrieks a high-pitched noise into Joe's face that causes his brains to leak out of his ears. As Sam's human facade melts away, Rachel tries to get to where they are. She eventually emerges into a grassy clearing, engulfed in light and shapes, where she's confronted by Daddy Sam's final form. Rachel screams for Tony, but is rightly reluctant to go to him, and then they disapparate anyway and shoot off into the vibrating cosmos. Rachel returns to the surreal mindscape that is now her home. Looking to make the best of a bad situation, she greets her consolation babies and welcomes them into her heart, but she is immediately betrayed. Xtro is a film that transcends its B-movie pedigree. Yeah, it's silly and has some nonsensical moments. I'm not sure why Tony was killing people, and his powers were somewhat ill-defined. It wasn't really clear what the process was here for whatever they were doing, or why it had to be done in order to arrive at the conclusion the film presents us. Also, I'm still not totally sure what Annalise's job was, but despite all these minor quibbles, this movie goes hard, and it absolutely rips. In some ways, it benefits from the lack of explanation, because the premise is based on interactions with aliens whose intentions and capabilities are completely unknown. In that regard, anything goes. This opens up the storytelling a bit by allowing for a wide range of possibilities. This can obviously go wrong in some cases, but I think they pulled it off in Xtro with its highly stylized and surreal visuals. For instance, I'm not sure what the stick snapping into lightning and turning the sky black had to do with an alien arrival, but it was pretty sweet. It would be pretty standard to design some sort of flying machine that they matted out and placed over the background, but bypassing that completely and making it just a glowing shape was inspired. It also added an unnerving element in that we never actually saw the alien beings. We only ever saw the after effects of their presence through the various forms that Sam or Tony's hatchlings took on. All of this made for a very unsettling overall experience that I think elevated this film beyond the typical expectations for movies enjoyed solely due to the charm of their failings. Before we go, I'd like to give a huge thanks to my donors memorialized in the Hall of Headshots. I have a website set up where you can support the channel through donations or merch. Any donation unlocks uncensored movie reviews of Life Force, Under the Skin, and Possessor, with others to be added over time. And if you enjoyed the video, I would love for you to become part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.